Welcome to the CRE Report. I'm your host, Chris Berg. Very special guest today. Been involved in self-storage for 45 years. I think he started when he was like 5. So he's been through some cycles. He's seen it all. He's with Legacy Built Investments, Tony Ardizzone. And I just love the name. Welcome to the show, Tony. It's great to have you, and thanks for the time.
Thanks, Chris. I'm honored to be with you. And, even though our relationship and our friendship has been very short in timing, I feel like we've synced at a higher level really fast. So I appreciate that. And it's always good having, that network of people around you that you could just feel that right away and you have the same synergies. So thank you for having me on.
Hey, man, I appreciate you saying that because it was like we met. It was just like brothers. That just so everyone knows he played football at Smallwood ASU, which obviously made it pretty easy for us to connect as well. But a man of faith, and as might as well just say it, fear the tree. That's all I got to say. So
I love
it. Let's jump in and talk some storage. I think number one, just share the story. 45 years, obviously, is just incredible. And then if you wouldn't mind, well, let's just start with your story. Then I want to get into some of the cycles that you've seen and where you see where we're at today. So I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the 2 of the 3 comment because, my pillars of what I stand for, and it's in this order. I call it the 4 F's of my pillar, which is faith, family, fitness, and finance. Believe it or not, finance is last, right? If you don't have health, you're not going to be able to enjoy your finances, right? So
can I interrupt you for a second, man? Yeah. So just remember, I had no idea this conversation was going to go there. I am literally leading a men's group right now at my church called the Kingdom Warrior Way. And I've created what I call the 7 F's. It's faith, family, friends, fitness, finance, fun, and then the philanthropy is number 7, which obviously is PH.
Wow. Okay.
But I had no idea you were going to go there. Like, oh, this is my man. Like, no wonder we connected.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Keep going. I love it.
Yeah. No, I think I need to add to my pillars, actually. Well, I think a lot of the industry's heard a lot of the story, so I won't bore most people with it. I'll just tell you that I'm the son of an immigrant family, mother and father. Mother is from Venezuela, father from Italy. They came to the United States, in the 60s. They eloped, believe it or not. So it's kind of a crazy love story that I'm writing a book on at some point here. To kind of not so much for the public, but really for my children. I've got 4 children, and so really it's one of those things where I want them to understand what our roots are, right? So it's so important to leave and that's why that's why our company is called Legacy Built, right? Because it truly was. Mm-hmm. So immigrant parents, really, I mean, they came from nothing and they saw war and the whole thing, right? And there's a lot of this talk about immigration now and what the president ran on and so forth. But truly, I can tell you and attest to the fact that, I've seen my father in the heart of Manhattan in New York City get on his knees in front of me as a young kid and kiss the ground where people have just walked on completely. And I'm like looking at this man going that I admire and respect, going, Dad, get off the ground, right? He's like, no, I kiss the ground that I walk on because this is an opportunity. It's that America is that to us. So he got his citizenship right away. My father spoke 6 languages, and that's not uncommon in the European world. My mother, she was just a hardworking, just God-loving individual. She's still alive today. My father's not. But at the end of the day, she got her citizenship, and after my father passed away at the age of 50. And so, that was just an accomplishment. And it was always, I think that's really the truth of what immigration and immigrants are today, to contribute to the world. And they handed that torch down to my brother and I. So very, very grateful for that, showing us that side of the love of country, but also of the love of God and family at the end of the day, and perseverance. My old man used to say, as I was young and I'd see a really nice car drive by in the city, or we drive by a really nice house, and he'd always ask us, "You like that car? You like that house? Oh man, that is so nice. I would like to have one day." He's like, "You can. You just got to work for it." Right. So those are the principles at the end of the day. I reside in Arizona, in Scottsdale, Arizona, but was born and raised in Queens, New York. And it wasn't until the age of 14, 15, right in that category, where my father, they were working two jobs, my mother and my father both. My brother and I were running the streets. And when I mean running the streets, I don't mean like, getting into a lot of trouble, but we were playing stickball. We were playing stoop ball. We were playing hockey, street hockey. I mean, we just did everything we could in sports, and it was always sports. And I think that's where my brother and myself got really good at sports. My brother went on to play collegiately and pitched at Texas Tech, and then he also pitched at Arizona State. So, he's a stud, better athlete than I am. And at the end of the day, we were there, and my father would come home at night, and he'd say, Rosie, where are the kids? Where are they? Where are the boys? And she's like, I don't know, Carlos. I think they're out in the street. So he'd peek his head out the window, and he'd look over at the schoolyard where we usually hung out, and he saw us, doing all the wrong things, just being around it, not doing it, but being around it, where the kids were smoking and that kind of deal. And he just said, you know what, I'll be damned if I'm coming to the United States of America to start a new legacy, and I'm going to have my boys turn into hoodlums, or they're going to turn into mafioso or whatever, right? So he kept ranting and raving. The story goes that to my mother, as she tells it, that he'd keep threatening to move. And so one day he showed up with a U-Haul of all things, packed up, and we we were moving to California, your neck of the woods. And we stopped in Arizona, and my mother had these really bad allergies. And long story short, they dried up because there was not a whole lot here in Arizona at the time. And he said, that's it. We're here. We're not going any further. So that's when he started looking. He was an architect. He graduated from NYU. So he had his architectural degree. He knew what he was doing. And he ran into a old timer, first generation, that would be 1979, right in that area, 77, 78, 79, somewhere in there, where this guy was a crazy Marine. He had the Raleigh finger,
Yeah.
mustache. I don't know. Most people don't know who Raleigh finger is. The handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he teamed up with this crazy kook. He was this Marine, and he's like, look, he goes, I want you to draw these. And right, CAD wasn't around back then, so everything was by hand. And he drew these sets of plans for a self-storage facility. And he said to my father, what else can you do? He says, I come from a long line of master tradesmen. I could do anything. You want me to build it for you? You want me to manage it for you? What do you want me to do? Right? Construction manage it. And he did it soup to nuts. So they went on to amass, the two of them went on to amass 18 properties together that later sold to SureGuard. So, when I say 45 years, I'm really in the mix of the 45 years as a young adult, as a young teenager, watching what was happening under my nose. And I was very attentive to it because I had to be. My father used to wake me up at 2:00 in the morning for a concrete pour, of all things, when I had football practice or baseball practice the next morning. And that was the story. It was, hard knocks. And I used to ask him all the time. It's like, Dad, why are you pushing my brother and I so hard? Like you're drilling it so much that you're making us hate it and not liking where you're pushing us. Right. And he sat us down at that moment in time. And he said, let me tell you boys something. He said, I want you to work. I want you to hate manual labor so much that I want you to work with a computer. At the time, it was a pen, right? But a pen, computer, and your brain. He goes, that's what I want you to do. I want to see you go down the aisle with your cap and gown, so you could throw the tassel over in college. I want to see you walk down the aisle and get married. And if you can do those two things for me, you'll complete me. That's all I want.
Wow.
And that was a story. And that's how, it kind of got into that side of things. I didn't follow his steps right away. After college, I went into brokerage, believe it or not. And, I did that for about 12 years. I put deals together. I watched what happened. I watched two people, make a decision so I can eat. And, my father used to say to me, what are you doing? Like, why are you still in the brokerage? It's like, man, it's a boys club. Things are great. I take 2-hour lunches. I'm making a good living. What do you mean? Right? He's like, you're making a mistake. Like, you need to build another one across the street from where I built the last one, and it'll fill up. I guarantee you. And so that's kind of the progression that happened. And it really is 2001. Had a really big portfolio deal as a broker, expecting to be the #1 broker in the country and this, that, and the other. And so the Twin Towers came down and the deal blew up. $1 million of non-refundable money has never happened to me in 12 years. And I sat in my chair while all this chaos was going on. And I said, you know what? Time to make a move. And so that's when I entrenched myself and started moving towards the world that my father and family grew up in, and just kind of picked up the torch and ran it from there.
So I got to ask, now that I know Dad's
Sorry for that being so long-winded.
No, it's great to get the context. And I got to ask, knowing that Pops now is from Italy, what's your favorite Godfather?
One, of course. #1.
I was hoping you were going to say that, man, but I had to ask. So in all seriousness, how many sites, because I was going through, you sent me over an OM. We'll talk about more of that in a moment, but how many sites have you built so far in your career?
In my career, I'm into the mid-20s now, 20, 25, 26, somewhere in there. And my, like I said, the early ons, it's part of the family side of the storage legacy, but that was a lot of my father at the end of the day, getting that early on. So, but I was there watching it. I worked on a lot of them. So, I kind of consider myself part of that legacy as well.
Yeah. I want to get into sort of how you underwrite stuff when you start going into development deals first. So just because starting in 2001, really into the business, you've seen a lot of different cycles. I think one of the headlines from SSA for me, Tony, was when Bill Hoban from William Warren Group said, hey, I've been in this business for 31 years, so somewhat comparable to you. And he goes, this is the hardest I've ever seen development in my 31 years. So based on other cycles, where do you see where we're at today? What would you compare today to with your history?
Yeah, great question. So I will tell you this, because we are synergistic in our company profile, work profile, and what we do together, right? So you could probably attest to the fact of what I'm about to say. And that is that in my entire career, so this is my starting 20, so this is my 25th year. I have never seen as many entitled opportunities where people who have come into our world who thought, they could do it. Retail developers, office developers, multifamily developers, hospitality, even I've seen. So these guys have come in and finally they've realized that, holy cow, and the market shifted. It wasn't as easy on the financing side. So the last, since probably COVID, I would think last 4 years or so, I have been, looking at properties that are already entitled, ready to go. And I've never seen that in my entire career. But I'll tell you also, out of, let's say, 7 or 8 that we see a week, I'd be lucky to get one that I would even attempt to even say, okay, this one's got some wheels behind it. A lot of these were just, I don't know what people were thinking. And it's obviously shows that, it would have been a loser. It would have been a tough carry. Storage is not a loser. It's never been a loser. You just got to ride out that storm. But with the storm comes a lot of capital behind it, especially for the kind of storage that we build and, the Class A stuff that the institutional lenders like. So that's where that kind of sits. So in the underwriting perspective part of that, we are super conservative. Like, I want to sleep at night for myself, for my investors, and, the partnerships that we establish. So we always write, if today's rents are at $18 a foot in a certain trade, area, we're writing that 10% behind what the existing market is. Because you know what my biggest fear is, Chris? I don't know if you've ever had it, but I've gone through a couple cycles here. So my biggest fear is, the 900-pound gorilla in our industry, right? Whoever that may be at the time, we know who it is. I never like to say who it is. But just decide one day, you know what? Let's just slash rates. Let's just beat everybody and take all the competition, right? Let's fill up ours and then we'll worry about everything else on their side. That could happen, and it has happened, right? Not to the extreme that I'm talking about, but it could get worse. So for me, it's really important. I'm not of the theory in our underwriting or in our acquisition side of things to find property that is behind a shopping center or hidden behind here or there. I want to be main and main. I still believe that location is the key to success, because God forbid something were to go down, I guarantee my property on the corner or the off corner is going to sell a whole heck of a lot faster than someone behind a grocery store, right? At the end of the day, with a sign moving that way. So our underwriting is very critical in how we approach it. And we take into account, the increasing, monthly revenue that we can get, lease up rates, revenue management that the big houses use. It's a lot more sophisticated than it ever has been, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what you're doing, and you're somebody that says, you know what, I just came into this whirlwind with the cash or whatever the case is, and I know storage is a great deal. Well, you better understand the dynamics and the metrics behind it, because, they're 36-month type of underwriting that you need to look at.
So let's dive into that. And I certainly, because I agree with you, I think a lot of people are like, come on, man, it's steel and some boxes. Like, how hard can this be, right? There's a lot more to it than I think what meets the eye, number one. Secondly, because of your football background, I wish I had this clip, man. I saw a great clip from Tom Brady recently that I'll probably use at some point in another storage show. But what I've really enjoyed, Tony, especially as a quarterback, is coming into these assets and underwriting them and creating like almost an offensive game plan, but then also going, hey, what's my defensive game plan, right? Like you said, just in case, what am I doing to defend this asset to ensure that it's got the best opportunity for success, sort of a risk management thing. Yes. So I want to know if that's kind of your approach as well with your football background. If so, walk us through, like, what are the metrics? Like you said, hey, I'm getting maybe 7-8 deals thrown at me each week, Chris. I'm lucky if there's one that's even got any meat on the bone. Walk me through kind of how you're processing this and what are the most important metrics you're focused on.
Wow, you were asking for my secret sauce. I should ask you.
I guess
no,
if you think
that's good. No. I'm happy to share. There's a first blush, right? There's a first hurdle. It's almost like watching someone walk in the door. You're looking at how his are his shoes scuffed up or not, or how tailored is his suit, or the whole thing. It's what we look at. So our first blush right out of the gate, right? And it's not because there aren't other secret sauces, there aren't other approaches to this. It's just been our approach, and we've batted 1,000. I say we should be in the MVP of storage, right? We batted 1,000. We've never had a loser in all these years. And it's because of the metrics that we use. Could we change the metrics and still be successful? And I've seen the metrics that, the publicly traded companies and the larger companies have, and they go into. Absolutely, we could. And those are successful. We just happen to stay in the higher demographic area, right? Which is a lot harder to find properties that way. So my first blush, my first broad stroke brush is real simple. I work everything off a 3 mile. Everybody likes to talk about the 5 and the 10. I'm still in the 3 mile. If I had the choice to be on a freeway for property, or I had the choice to be on the arterial, that's a toss up, because I've been successful on both of those acquisitions. But I think I would probably shoot for the freeway location, because I'd be able to draw from a lot further. Maybe now that 5 to 10 really starts coming into play. But from a lease up standpoint, and being able to get that synergy of the lease up, a storage facility that's more community based on the arterial road where people see it daily, going home or going to work, those will lease up faster for you at the end of the day. So kind of contradictory on that side, but that's exactly what we look for. And then we look at income levels, right? So population, income levels, population being a big one, right? I mean, you could have $100,000 median income of a neighborhood, but yet you only have 50,000 people there, right? And if you've got your saturation with other competition, how do you evaluate that? So for us, there's a lot that goes into, but our first, population and income is a real big one for us. And we try and, again, anything north of $70,000 per median household income, not average, right? I hope a lot of people understand that at the end of the day, what the difference is. And then the other side of it is, population. So it's kind of like my 70-70 rule, just to start out.
Love that. You mentioned the income piece also then. So that's kind of the offensive. Obviously, you're looking at rates as well. Hey, does this thing even have an opportunity to underwrite, right? From a defensive perspective, are you also looking at, okay, what other parcels of land potentially could be zoned for self-storage? What do I see? Maybe some additional conversions. Are you taking that kind of strategy as well, or not so much?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Appreciate you asking. Yeah, I mean, I'd say that 80%, 85% of our business is ground up development. We have kind of pivoted since COVID, right? Since 21 a little bit, where we're really attacking more of the repositioning of assets, right? Even repurposing on some of them, such as grocery stores or big boxes. The challenge with those are, and we love that too, right? We've been very successful with that too. But the challenge with that is you got gremlins that come out, right? Even though you think you can underwrite it for a certain dollar amount, and you got your expertise in it. All of a sudden an electrical panel blows, or you've got asbestos, or you've got some kind of environmental issue or something you are not looking forward to or not expecting, or maybe you dig up some skeletons in the back. It used to be a mortuary, right? I mean, we've had those. So those are the things that I think are a little bit, you have to be a little bit more precautionary when you're dealing with the reconversions of assets. But yes, we do them. We love them. They're faster to market at the end of the day. And so they're a great asset to go after. Problem is that they're so highly sought after, and they are very highly priced, that a lot of times it's a lot cheaper just to build it from the ground up. We may lose 8 months on it, but you know what? We can get there a lot more cost effectively.
Yeah, it's so good to hear you say that. We've got a great JV partner, and we've had some really incredible conversion opportunities come our way. And he's like, nope, I want to know my HVAC. I want to know, like, hey, my electricity. Like, he's like, hey, I just want to do ground up. I know what I got, and I can actually make a much better, underwriting decision. Because you said, then I know there's not as many gremlins. So very, very well said. So let's talk about your business, right? Like, what are you up to right now? I know that you've got some assets that you're saying, hey, Chris, I want to go out there and potentially integrate some more retail investors with myself. So talk about your pivot there and what you're looking to fund.
Yeah, thank you for asking. We've had the model, and the reason we've been able to scale like we have, we've had some fantastic and amazing joint venture partners on the institutional side of things. There's a lot of work and effort, as you know, that goes into it, years of it, between the entitlements, through the zoning process and so forth, to all the way to the the risk that it takes in construction and so forth. So we've pivoted away from the institutions at this point, and we started going to friends and family and started raising money with a fund. We started that this year, January of 2025, and we're taking in investors, in our website portal, and it's basically, at this point in time, we're giving some pretty hefty preferred returns to investors. We've got a track record. We can show our proof of track record, our historical side of things, and what we've done. I don't think in our entire career, we've ever sold anything during any cycle or whatsoever for probably less than 2.5x multiple from when we got into it. I anticipate on this next portfolio that we're assembling, we're going to assemble 25 of these Class A properties. Doesn't have to be ground up, could be the retrofit and the repurposing as well. But we're going to build 25 of these over the next 36 to 60 months, hold on to them for a little while, cash flow them, provide distributions back to our investors, and then at some point package the whole thing up and put it on the market for sale. So that's the game plan, to be able to get the multiple that we're looking for.
So with your experience, why the pivot from institutional to retail?
Great question. Control. I'm not going to say I'm a control freak, but control from a standpoint of not so much control when you think of it that way. Control from a standpoint of, I could give you case study after case study. I've got a half a dozen case studies, if not close to a dozen, to where you've got this trajectory where you've got a pent up demand on these properties that we're putting out on the market, and we're with institutional buyers. And, you get a call. The game plan and the operating agreement always talks about a 7-year hold, is what approximate 7-year hold. Well, I've never gotten past 3 years of a hold because it's done so well. We did really good on the acquisition side that we get a call from our institutional guys, and they're like, "Hey, this is the best property we have in our entire portfolio. I think we should sell today."
Wow.
No, what do you mean sell? No, we're at 40% occupancy. Yeah, but we got there like within the first 8 months. Like, this is like amazing. So leaving money on the table, just taking the bricks and mortar and kind of getting the at market price, right, and not really getting that meat on the bone at the end of the day, is a huge mistake. And I could tell you, like I said, the case studies. There's one case study that still hits me. Actually, I met with the gentleman yesterday after 10 years. Actually, he was a investment partner, and he said, "How come you haven't done any more deals with me?" And I said, "You know why?" I said, "I love you. You're a good man. You stand for all the right things. But from a business perspective, we just didn't align." And he said, well, "Explain to me," because he's more of a landowner kind of a thing. And he said, "Explain to me more." I said, "Well, the property you made a decision that you wanted to sell on, right? Before we were even done with it." I said, "Do you remember what that price was?" And he says, "I don't remember. No." He said, I said, "Well, we built it for a little over $5 million, land including. That means everything involved. And we had one of the REITs come to us. This is 2015. We had one of the REITs come to us before it was even done and said, 'We love this location. We'll buy it from you.' I said, 'It's not for sale.' And they said, 'Well, do you have a partner or partners?' I said, 'I do.' They said, 'Well, then you have a fiduciary, and here's our offer, and you got to present it.' So that $9.1 million offer was where the comment back was, 'Hey, Tony, you're not going to go broke making a profit.' True. But you're also going to not sleep, well, like I haven't over the last 10 years on just that deal." Fast forward less than 24 months, I get a call from the REIT saying, "Hey, you built this building. You're one of our partners. Would you be kind enough to walk our appraiser through? We're doing a appraisal for all of our properties that we have to get audited on with REIT rules and so forth." So I did. By the time I was done, spent an hour and a half with the guy, and I said, "So, I'm assuming, and I've got to bet that you're going to be doing this on an income level approach, right, as opposed to a cost basis and so forth." And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." I said, "So based on the rents, and I've seen what the rents are right now that you're charging, what do you value this property at?" And he said, "Oh, I'm probably anywhere between 29 to 32 million, right?" Now that's less than 24 months from when we sold. All you needed to do is just stay the course, stay in it. And that's happened to me over and over and over again, to where I'm not doing ourselves any justice. I'm not doing our investors any justice. And like I said, how hard it is to get these things done. So ride out the storm. If there is a storm, a lot of times there's not. If you do all your homework, there won't be a storm.
Well, I love how you open, because did you ever read any or listen to Sam Zell? Do you remember Sam Zell?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. He always talked about it. Yeah, thank you. And one of the things he always talked about was, "Hey man, leave meat on the bone. Like, I don't want to do just one deal with you. I want to do deals for the rest of our lives. And if I leave meat on the bone for everybody, everyone's going to come back into my sandbox and play." And so I just thought, very, very well said, and how you open that conversation up. So give us an idea. I'm going to bring up your website here, but give us an idea for people that are like, "You know what? I like storage, don't know a lot about it. Tony's got great experience. Might be somebody I want to team up with as an LP. Like, how do they get involved with you? What kind of returns are you talking about? Walk us through that."
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thanks for even doing this. I didn't expect you to do that. Look, if you want to do a little bit more deeper dive into us, you can see our historical performances, what we are, the current investments and the current projects that we have right now going. You'd have to become an investor or sign up with us to become an investor, and that's that yellow button there on the right, front and center. You can see a lot of the Class A stuff that we have behind our on our website, and that's what we build. We always have third-party management at the end of the day with us, whether it's Extra Space or CubeSmart or we're looking at others right now very closely at the end of the day. But this is an opportunity for friends and family. If you're accredited, you have to be an accredited investor. This is a 506c regulated investment, which in accreditation, you could Google it, chat GPT it, whatever it is. But from a nutshell, you got to make $200,000 a year for 3 years straight, or as a couple, married couple, $300,000 a year, or you have to have $1 million worth of net worth, not including your primary home. So that makes you an accredited investor and be able to invest into our projects. We do take a very low minimum. A lot of people have criticized me for taking such a low minimum, but I want everybody to get involved if they want to and have the opportunity. And, there's a lot of risk averse people out there, and I respect that. So we're at a $25,000 minimum. And for that, you get 8% on your money. So anywhere from $25,000 to $99,999 is 8% on your money. That's preferred annual return. And then whatever the upside is on the back end. So if we split it for, let's say it's a 3X, right? So if you put in 100,000, you get 10% return on your money annually, preferred return. You get that back first. You get your 100 grand back. And then if it's a 3X, you get 300,000 on top of that. So you would get $450,000 back on a $100,000 investment. You get your 100 grand back plus 350. So that's the model. We've got obviously a lot of people putting in larger dollar amounts than that, but breaking it down to that. We do also IRAs, 401ks. We help people at the end of the day get a custodian that can circumvent, putting that into our fund if they want to have it tax deferred. So there's ways for that to happen as well. So yeah, we're kind of venturing into something that is a little out of our wheelhouse, but you know what? I'm going to find a lot more satisfaction out of it when we all sit back and we have all the investors together in one room and what we've accomplished, because I know it'll happen. I know what we do is the right thing. At the end of the day, we're professionals. We're experts at what we do. And I don't say that boastingly. I just say that from experience. And I know you're a professional, and that's why you and your group is, and that's why we're here talking, right? Because Exactly. It moves us and elevates us to another level.
Just because the attorneys are probably going to want to hear this is not investment advice. The example that Tony just gave was a simple theoretical example. Past performance does not equal future performance. So just want to get all the sort of nuggets out there to cover ourselves with the attorneys. Yeah. So we're coming up on our time. I want to give you the last words, or anything else you want to add or share.
I think I just, to anybody out there looking to get into this business, you're going to say, "What? I could just do it myself," right? At the end of the day. And the only advice in closing, I think, would be find somebody, sit down with them, have coffee, have lunch, whatever it takes. Really understand the dynamics before you go out and do a self-storage facility. I say that because it affects not only you as an investor or someone who wants to be in this business, but it also affects guys like you, Chris, and me at the end of the day, because I see guys that are just doing nothing but going forward, spending, buying land, entitling it for self-storage, and then not doing it. Well, guys like us have to take that into account, because eventually those barriers to entry have been penetrated. And those are things that, we now look at it and go, wow, we really can't put this facility there, because eventually this guy can, change the numbers on us. Right. So that's a real big one. And the other one, I think, is God and country, right? I mean, for what we got going on in our world today, and a lot of the political demise and devise that we have, I just think that, having conversation, continuing conversation, listening, just like we do in business, to do it the same way when we're out there in the real world. And, I think that's my parting words at the end of the day of an immigrant son who is doing nothing but trying to do all the right things and live those pillars that we talked about.
Yeah, I really appreciate you wrapping it up that way. You and I spoke. You obviously had, being in Scottsdale, some proximity to Charlie Kirk, and just being a man of faith and sharing your story. So it's great to have you here, Tony. Appreciate it. Again, if you want to find out more, you can always go check them out. LegacyBuiltUS.com, LegacyBuilt CREReportUS.com. This is Chris Berg with the CRE Report, building generational wealth with real estate.
Thank you.